Hi, I'm Michelle, and I did my paper on how children search for information. And I chose this topic because where I work, I see kids search for information a lot, and they can use two different databases, one that is for the whole library and one that's just for kids. And the children struggle with both, and it could be because they spelled something wrong or they don't know what they're searching for. And I just was curious to see what research said about this. And um, for my paper, I was really focusing on children who are in kindergarten to 8th grade, so about 5 to 13. However, the research I found, a lot of the studies would look at kids from kindergarten or even preschool to 12th grade, which really gave me an opportunity to see how it really does change throughout the grades, and where there is struggles constantly and where there are changes and where preferences change. And so I start my paper off. My thesis statement for this paper was that if by looking at this research, creators can create sites that are kid friendly and are made for kids, and also we need to teach children more about the tools that they're using and the sites that they're using, because eventually we can make all these kid-friendly sites, but eventually they're going to have to use not not children's sites, and if they don't understand the tools they're looking for, it's going to be challenging for them. And so I start my paper off with terms that just came up a lot, which are terms that we've learned in the class: controlled vocabulary, Boolean searches, keyword searches, browsing, hierarchies, and just how all of these go into a website. And so the first thing I look at in my paper is the structure of a website. And this can make a really big difference for kids, because a lot of websites are organized by hierarchies, and research has found that adults have trouble using these types of databases. And if adults are having trouble, it's going to be really hard for children who are still learning how to who are still learning about hierarchies, because some of the research I found said that children do not understand how to go up in a hierarchy, and so that means that they could get to a certain point and just be lost. And so that was one thing I thought was interesting, was that a lot of websites, even for children, a lot of websites are organized in this way, but it's obviously not helping the kids any. The next thing I looked at was children's research habits, because I think that this is super important. If we understand how children naturally look for information and how children are going to go in using a database or a search engine, then sites can be created that are really made for them. And the first thing I found was just not even using a search engine or a database. Children like to browse. Children don't necessarily have a topic in mind. They might just be they just might want to browse the shelves of books. And I also found that to find information, children often use books from home, books from their libraries, the internet, and other people are a big factor where children get their information. And one study I looked at found that when children were trying to use a hierarchy, as I said before, children have hard time using hierarchies, and it found that they were given 5 tasks to do, and the task that had them use the hierarchy took much longer than the task that had them use a directed search task, which was pretty much like a keyword search. And that I think says a lot, because that's just showing you that I'm sorry, I kind of like messed up. The directed search task was more, they didn't have to use the hierarchy at all. And so when when it looked at to see if children would just use one type of search method versus using many search methods, it found that children, they oftentimes would use one search method, but that kind of depended. Children would try different things, like try browsing, try other types of search engines, but what it ended up back going to is that they would often just resort, if they couldn't find what they were looking for by browsing, they would go back to using a search engine. Another study I looked at said that people in general, not just children but like adults, do not really use the advanced search options, which I found interesting because sometimes that makes your searching easier. And children have trouble using controlled vocabulary and metadata schemes because they don't necessarily have the vocabulary that adults do, so they're going to have trouble putting in what they're searching for. Another thing that I found is that students might trade quality of, they might not care so much about how good the results that they find are, but they'll be more concerned about how like long it takes them to search. So they might just go for the first thing that they find. A big thing that I looked at in my paper was a site that was designed for kids. It's called the International Children's Digital Library. And this website, the creators of it, they had done prior research using a different, for a different website, and based on this research and based on new research, they actually created this website for children. They worked with children to find out how children search for information. So the site is for children ages 3 to 13 and also for the adults that work with those children. And they have different options for children to look at. They can like browse, and it's using the simple design. There's like colors and shapes for the children to use, which younger kids tend to like more. There's also like a location, which is like a globe, and the children can click on a continent. And then there is an advanced search option. A few years after the site was created, they did more research, and they found that they looked into the hierarchies and found that kids really do struggle with them, and that kids also struggle creating Boolean searches. So they designed their site, they flattened their site out, which just means that instead of for the kids having to go up a category, they just have to click to the next page, which children sometimes also don't do that, but they're more likely to do that than to go up in a category. And they also so it's not technically like you and I creating a Boolean search. It would be that the kids would have to click on 2 different categories, and that was just like a start for them, which I think is really neat. I think that creates a way for children to start learning how to create these types of searches. And I concluded my paper with saying that some things based on this research I think that creators of websites need to focus on is how do children search for information, involving children in their research, and also starting small. I think children need to be taught more about the tools that they're using.